Hi, I'm Tony Joe from Remax Camosun here in beautiful Victoria, British Columbia. Thanks for tuning in. This is part of a series of videos that we've developed to help educate people in terms of real estate, whether it's buying or selling. Hopefully some of our advice can provide best results for you out there in the marketplace. And I want to invite you to call or email me if you ever have any questions or if there's anything that you're concerned about in real estate. We'd be happy to chat with you. In this particular segment, I want to talk about buyer agency and buyer agency contracts. Buyer agency contracts. So, if you are thinking of buying a property, there's a few ways you can do it. Some people choose to go through open houses. They choose to go through the newspaper, the Real Estate Victoria, for instance, or through the internet. Realtor.ca is the national website of all of the 98 real estate boards in Canada that have all properties for sale. People often start by just driving around, getting an idea, finding for sale signs, writing down addresses, going to the internet, and things like that. You will find actually that the Realtor.ca website has limited information. So if you're wondering why it's missing some vital information, for instance, maybe taxes, square footage of particular floors, the configuration and things like that, the reason is not necessarily because the real estate industry wants to hide these things from you, but rather the fact that, as I said, it's a national website that actually has the participation of 98 real estate boards, and oftentimes the information is just not compatible with the main system. Anyways, the bottom line is it's always very helpful to have yourself on your side a real estate advocate, someone who will work for you. And this is what we call a buyer agent in the case that you are buying properties. So what does a buyer agent do? The buyer agent is someone that will walk you through the entire process, whether or not you've bought or sold real estate before. The buyer agent should be very well acquainted with the area and well acquainted with the neighborhoods and also with the real estate market in general. The reason why that's important is because that person should be able to tell you a determination when looking at properties whether or not the value was correct or not, because the bottom line is you do not want to overpay or pay too much for a property. Your real estate agent or your real estate advocate is the person that is on your side that will help you not only determine what the true market value is, but will also negotiate on your behalf. This is very important because when you have a buyer agent, that person works solely for you. Now, if you're going around and just looking at for sale signs, you may call the agent whose name is on the sign. We have many signs. You know, we are listing agents, so we have inventory as well too. We get phone calls from people. One of the things that you must understand is that the name on the sign represents the seller or the homeowner. You may call that person directly. That person may show you the property. You might be interested in the property. But if you do not have your own advocate or your own agent on your side and you want to purchase that property, you'll do it through that person. And that means one of two things. That agent may either decide to enter into non-agency for you, meaning they will only represent the seller and they will not give you any recommendations on price, any strategies, any negotiating tips, or things like that. That's the first thing that may happen. The second thing is that agent might do what they call a dual agency, which means that they are working for both the buyer and the seller and limited to work for both parties impartially. So there is no real benefit from one party to the next. I know this all sounds very confusing, but the bottom line is having a buyer advocate on your side is a very powerful thing. The value is fantastic. Speaking of value, you may wonder how your buyer agent gets paid. Well, the answer is they get paid from the brokerage whose name is on the sign. That's how they end up getting paid. I should actually say they get paid that way 99% of the time. The reason why I say that is sometimes we bump into for sale by owners or people who are not on the marketplace who may not be offering a remuneration to your agent to do their work. In such case, your agent may attempt to negotiate their pay from the seller for you to put the transaction together, or in some cases, buyers decide to pay that fee for them. I'll leave that for you and your buyer agent to decide. Anyways, I also mentioned something called buyer agency agreement or buyer agency contract. What that is, if you haven't seen one before, or if you're confused or you've heard it and you wanted to know more about it, is basically an employment agreement between you and your buyer agent. It's an employment agreement between you and your buyer agent. The thing that a buyer agency contract does is it outlines exactly what the expectations are, not only of your agent to you, but also you to your agent. When you sign it, it does mean that you're obligated to use the services only of that realtor. That's fair. On the other hand, it also says that that agent is obligated to do a number of things depending on what is on their Schedule A or their list or menu of services that they're going to provide to you. Like any other employment agreement, there is a time frame when it starts and when it ends, and generally speaking, what market area the realtor will be working in. Do not be afraid about a buyer agency contract. One of the things that I find very beneficial about them is I commonly meet consumers or buyers that come to me and say, you know, I think I'm working with this agent, but I don't know for sure because we've never had a discussion about how they get paid or what their role is or things like that. And consequently, I'll hear from agents that say, well, I got this person, I don't know if they're a client because you know, it's never been discussed. Well, anyways, the buyer agency agreement basically outlines everything for both parties and lays it out in black and white so there is no confusion at all. And this is one of the nice things about having one. If you have any questions about buyer agency agreements, or things of that nature, please give me a call or send me an email. And by all means, have a look at some of the other videos that we have on the website here. I'm Tony Joe.